Good morning. I'm Kat Kabira. And today I want to talk to you about two things: why environment matters and building a landing pad within yourself. So, if you're unfamiliar with my work, what I really focus on is how to create stability and how to really start to initiate deeper practices of self-care. And once we have that stability, and once we're really in that nourishment and able to soothe, that's when the healing happens. That's when the expansion happens. And for a lot of us, especially if we have a type A personality, or, considering which cultures we might come from, we might place a lot of pressure on ourselves and wonder, why am I not performing? Why can't I create? Why can't I move forward? Why am I not successful? Why is this so hard? And we won't even realize that there's this inner attitude that's a little bit harsh, or like a drill sergeant, and really isn't paying attention to what's actually happening in the foundation or environment. So in terms of why environment matters, I remember speaking with a mentor the other day, and she reminded me that environment affects our nervous system like 40%. I don't know where she got this percentage, but what she was trying to remind me is that for those of us, if we're not an environment that works for us, or a toxic environment, it's going to be a lot harder to, one, ground, and two, do any sort of performance. And it will affect our health, our physical health, our mental health, and our emotional health. And what do I mean by environment? Of course, like part of it is just environment, meaning the air quality, the water, but it also will be the vibe, like the undercurrent, the emotions of the people, the population, whether you're aware of it or not. How the people are feeling in your area can also impact your system. And also will just be the personal choice of for some people, and welcome to my cat, for some people, environment, some people can thrive in certain environments, and other people won't thrive in that same one. So it doesn't really help, because we all do that little thing of comparing, of like, well, why is this person thriving here and why am I not? And part of it is just getting really honest about what your real needs are and what actually works for you. I remember back in 2020, when lockdown happened, I was living in kind of like a glamping tent with my then partner, and wanted it to work. Like I had an idea about it. I was like out in the wilderness. I could see kangaroos everywhere. I was saving a lot of money. It was very rustic. And I wanted to be that person that could just kind of like live off the land. But it was really challenging, like any video I made, I just looked so miserable. And I finally gifted myself when I realized I had a big training coming up. I moved into a regular house, and the sparkle was almost instantaneous. And I found myself just dancing on that first day, and I couldn't stop dancing. And even people, I was living in a small town, and people who had seen me over the past few months in the supermarket would actually come up to me and say, "We don't know what just happened, but like, you're just sparkling." And that was a really good teaching for me, because I was doing everything in my power for a few months to actually try to thrive and be okay in this tent. And another person, my partner, for example, he was thriving there, so it's like, we all need different things. I remember when I was 15, I went to boarding school, and it was the first time that I ever like officially left my family for an extended period of time. And I was a child that was sick quite a bit all my life, always sick, always missing school, always sick with different things. And I was astounded, because for 6 months I had perfect health. And it was, I remember thinking right then, okay, there's something going on with environment. And I'm not saying, because, of course there can be a danger of blaming everything on the environment. Inner work does matter. But on the flip side, there can be people where we're like doing all this inner work. And sometimes it's just like, this just isn't working, whether we're talking about a relationship, a job, an environment. And so sometimes it's like, instead of over investigating, over analyzing, overdoing the inner work, it's just being really real with what feels good for you, what helps you land. And I'm saying this because if you're really sensitive, you're going to be more impacted by environment than you may realize. And what I encourage you to do is actually how to start to pay attention to what we might call the more subtle messages or signs that your body's giving you to tell you like, hey, like this isn't working for us. For those of you who've done inner child work, you might resonate more with like one of your many inner children, might get really uncomfortable and scared, or just be like, I need to leave right now, and do you actually listen to these subtle messages, or maybe not so subtle? Or is there a part of you that's kind of like, no, this is the plan, this is the vision, this is what we're doing? So I'm curious about that, because environment really matters. It will affect your physical health, it will affect your mental health, and it will affect your emotional health. Part two is, creating a landing pad within yourself. And I found myself like, that's the phrase that I've kind of coined over the past month when I'm working with people, and they're very scattered. They have a really hard time grounding. And a lot of it can be just from chaos, complex trauma as children, where they never really felt safe. So one of the things that we get to do as we get older is, how can you start to create that safety for yourself? And that's going to be the practical choices that you're making day to day, and setting boundaries and listening, and how do you meet yourself when you're feeling anxious? How do you create more space? How do you slow down? How do you get honest about what you like and what you don't like? But also within your own body, it's like creating this place where you can actually land and drop in. And I could talk to you for a long time about this, but in short, one could be just really owning your back body, really feeling it. It's not just like a physical thing. It's a more multidimensional feeling of just dropping and feeling that support from the universe, from the ground, from your guides, from your ancestors, or even just feeling around your sacrum. So that instead of your body kind of like, almost like still doing a little effort and lifting up off the ground, it's like, okay, this is where I can land and settle. We need this landing, because otherwise it will be hard for us to ever really fully ground or show up. And we need that grounding. We need that landing to rest, to heal, but also to move forward. And until we have that, it's like our energy will be scattered in all different places. Like truly, it will look like energetically, like it's in all different parts of the world, different dream times with different people, different timelines. So we really do want to be able to gather ourselves right here. And what can be challenging is if you're not really feeling like the environment's working for you, it will be a little bit more challenging for you to create that landing. So what do you do in the meantime? And this is something I personally, I'll admit, have had to really work with, because my nervous system doesn't really thrive here in Bali the same way that it does in other places. And yet with the level of healing work that I do, I have to be grounded, not only during the sessions, but afterwards, so I can actually clear myself. And that's something I will teach you if you do any energy training with me, is how do you stay clear during and after sessions? So the final piece to this is, you can still create tricks of creating that landing pad, even if the place really isn't working for you. And one thing can be is actually remembering a place where you really land and ground. And so, it can be like a forest area or the ocean, or for me, it's like a specific place in Portugal where it's like I really land, ground, and I light up. So you're really grounded if you get lit. Okay, so that's another thing. A lot of times we think grounding is like, oh, the earth. No. Like there's a light and an expansion and an energy that happens as well. And so that will be my extra little trick that I do. And then I can suddenly feel everything in me just drop down. You know, the opposite would almost, I call it the octopus, where you're like, I don't want to be here. You know, almost like when you're in a dirty bathroom and you're like on tiptoes because it's just so dirty. You don't want to put your feet down, right? Our nervous system will do that. Our energy system will do that, where you do the octopus, where you pull your whole body up into your head. So we want to be able to find, for our own health and pleasure, how can we start to flow and really be all here? There's a lot more I can share, but I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you have a very, very, very wonderful day, and I will see you very soon.